Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to read some more Beyond a Game, a Freak Circus fanfic found in Arch of Our Own. Chapter 7, The Unknowns. The early morning had risen and bolted awake, and cold sweat was in your daily routine. Your breathing came in heavy pants, your chest rising and falling back down. Your tiny, puny brain was unable to remember what exactly happened to you when you wake up in such a state, nor did you remember dreaming anything notorious. But an odd feeling filled your chest, and it made not only your throat and lungs heavy, but also your heart. It was an unusual start to your day, but you chose to brush it off, thinking they'll pass eventually. Grab your clothes to have a cold shower was immediate, though it might have your mind off things bothering you. Might take your mind off things bothering you. You feel silent minutes pass when you slowly return to shower off, the water stopping to a halt as you breathed in the fresh atmosphere that engulfed your bathroom. The air was cold, a bit minty, too, from the body wash you used. Exiting your bathroom while giving your shirt a tug downwards, your towel on their hand as you dumped it somewhere in your room. You'll pick it up later. In due course, your phone rang. A notification? Grab your phone from your bedside table. He took a glance to see a number he didn't recognize. Strange, but he decided to still take a look at the message. They didn't come to work today. Then another message rolled in. Also forget to mention that I've decided to hire you. Please come in today. Sorry for the late notice. You read the message quietly. They, as in the player? That was the only possible information you could think of. Thinking that this may be the boss from the cafe he was texting you. Why did the player not come to work today? That was odd of them. You doubt that they would miss a day of work unless they got sick. Possible, but still worrying, considering it seemed that they disappeared without notifying anyone. You shook your head. On the contrary, you got hired, which was just what you needed, a job, so you prepared your stuff to go out, hoping that you wouldn't be late on your first day. Walking to the cafe felt more daunting than usual, maybe because the player wasn't there to greet you. Instead, you saw your now boss standing behind the counter, assisting customers. His eyes lit up when he saw you. You could see the way he sighed in relief. When he finished taking the orders of the last customer, he went up to you. Just in time. It's getting busier each day, he says in a tone filled with appreciation. With the player now out of the picture, temporarily, your presence brought a new light. Of course, wouldn't miss my first day on the job, would I? He smiled with ease. It was meant to be reassuring. You're right about that. Just continue where I was left off, and ask any questions if you have them. I'll be in the back. You nod as you watch him leave, and you viewpoint to the staff-only room. You made haste going to put your stuff up before putting a brown apron and trying it around your waist. You realized that the apron had a tag with your name on it. Neat. Looking over to the orders you had to do, you knew it was going to be a long day. As you quickly prepared the ingredients you would need, you heard the bell ring behind you, indicating that someone just came in. You turned around to greet them, to only meet with Harry Quinn. That grin on his face only grew wider when his eyes landed on you. Ah, there's my favorite barista. His words made you roll your eyes. And since when was I your favorite barista? I just started working, he said calmly, preparing cups, letting him sit down on the seat in front of the counter. Why can't you just accept words of appreciation, he teased, tilting his head while having his chin rest on his palm. Coming from you, really, after last night, your bond with the mysterious clown has increased, even if it was subtle. Say, where's your little friend? Harley Quinn inquired. Even Harley Quinn doesn't know? Your thoughts were brought to a pause, answering his question with a hesitant shrug. Didn't come to work. Don't know why. Your confusion about the unknowns of the player's whereabouts made him pause. That's so? It's not a question on his part. It was more of an acknowledgement. Throughout the short minutes he left you undisturbed while doing your job, a part of him enjoyed watching the movement of your hands, the flexibility in them. The fact that it looks like you knew what you were doing. His eyes dragged up and down your figure, like he was checking you out without shame. That is, you're watching him from the corner of your vision. But when the quiet tension in the air was getting to you, he turned around to face him and caught the clown in the act of staring at you. What in tarnation are you doing? He raised an eyebrow, trying to hide a smirk from the corner of your mouth. The Harley Quinn raised both of his hands, almost in mock defeat. Just appreciating the view, my dear. You didn't notice that your face was turning red from the comment. Once you realized, you let out an almost offended huff and turned away from him. What? Don't tell me you're easily get frustrated from light teasing. He was clearly making fun of you, but you were pretty and refused to answer him. Petty and refused to answer him. Silence dragged on after that, but it was uncomfortable silence mixed with the relaxing piano music in the background inside the cafe. You and Harley Quinn shared short glances, a sign of acknowledgement towards one another, but few words were shared. He didn't want anything, nor use his opportunity inside the building to promote the building. It was like he was there to gently see you. Will you come to the circus tonight? Harley Quinn asked, dragging his gloved hands against the counter. Will you show beyond? Harley Quinn didn't delay any more seconds to nod his head. Of course, it's required for all of us to start and attend our own show, except if it's ticket taker, because he's punching tickets all night long. But someone will cover his shift once he has to start his show. You nod your head once. The information was dumped on you. Maybe you could use the schedule to your advantage in the future. The bell rang and the door opened. You looked up from Harley Quinn to the door and saw someone you didn't expect to see. Pirate. I'm sorry, Pirate, but they aren't at work right now, you said with sympathy in your tone. Pirate looked at you with a nod in his head. Was that an okay or I know response? You couldn't really decipher his silence. At the topic of Pirate and the player, shouldn't Pirate be stalking him at any given chance? Why was he here? It should be obvious as daylight that the player isn't here to him. Either that or Pirate is also aware that where the player is, and that sent chills down your spine. If Pirate doesn't know where the player is, then who does? Earth to our dear barista, Harley Quinn snapped you out of your trance. You gave him a apologetic smile. Sorry, just had a lot to think about. Harley Quinn didn't push it. Pirate, on the other hand, was unable to speak, even if he was curious. If you two gentlemen would let me do my job, I'll get back to you soon. You didn't emphasize it, but you were clearly staring at Harley Quinn with such intensity. He noticed this and raised his arm with a grin on his face, clearly not bothered by your words. That was undoubtedly targeted towards him. Pirate uttered no words, as expected of the silent clown. He would get in trouble, no doubt. He bet Harley Quinn wouldn't hesitate to ratting the red clown either, just to see him miserable. But to be honest, he already looked miserable. Or was that his poker face? Could be both. Who knows, despite playing the game multiple times, seeking for any Easter eggs or theories you could scrap on Tumblr, Reddit, TikTok, YouTube, practically any social media. But most were headcanons, made by lovesick or delusional fans. Not that you complain. But does it change the fact that you barely knew anything about the clowns, let alone Pyroth and Harley Quinn, who were the main love interest? As you diligently did your work, your mind traced back to the player. Questions started appearing inside your head. Where were they? Were they okay? Did they need help? And are they in trouble? And so on invaded your mind. You didn't even realize you put salt instead of sugar in the customer's drink. And no one knows once you read the label. Crap, I need to remake it now. You sighed in frustration. It was only your first day, yet everything was going wrong. Not only did you have to babysit two psychotic clowns who hate you to their very guts, but also have to avoid getting complaints to customers and creating several drinks that were up to standards on your first shift. And on a morning rush. It was going to be a long day. Tracing back to the early morning as the sun begins making its land with its brightness, the player slowly woke from their sleep. The first thing that attacked their senses was several cramps in their body. They would be questioning if it weren't for the fact that it was really obvious what the answer was. They were tied up behind a metal pillar, their wrists touching the cold metal that made them shiver. Their ankles were too tied up at once, with an uncomfortable gag around their mouth. They couldn't tell where they were, or what the place was, but they were aware that it was dark, with only light source being gaps that they guessed to be the entrance. The player tried to struggle with their restraints, but the way the ropes were tied around their wrist and attached the metal pillar, and with the other rope attached their body, that this wasn't the kidnapper's first rodeo. That scared them more than anything. They tried to remember the last thing before this all happened. The memory, the circus, the weird gesture coming up to them, asking them about their ticket. Then before they knew what just happened, they passed out. I need to get out of here, the player thought to themselves. But as they tried their hardest to get the rope to loosen around their wrist, it would somehow tighten even more, and they could feel the burn on their skin caused by the harsh material of the rope. They felt their skin irritate under the restraints and choose to halt, trying to think more rationally. Sure, someone would notice their disappearance and call the police. There was no way they would be staying here for God knows how long, but they weren't going to wait around in fear of anything bad happening to them. Before they were able to do anything, the entrance opened, and they saw a figure, but due to the light, they were unable to see who it was. Hey, who are you? The player knew they weren't going to get the direct answer. What kind of kidnapper would you be if they told you their identity? Mysterious figure, loud chuckle, an unsettling one that is. They were engulfed once more in the dark as the figure closed back the entrance, leaving little to no light. Answer me, the player tried to bait an answer, but this person seemed to catch on what they were trying to do, but didn't wait long for a response. Well, fragile and significant, that voice the player was familiar with, but they couldn't pinpoint where they heard that voice from. Excluding the fact that they sounded disgusted, almost bored to be in the same room as the player, the mysterious person's voice seemed to be male. His footsteps were light and subtle, but the player was still able to focus and understand where the person was walking. He was walking in circles, almost suspecting the player. Why would Pyrot, like someone such as you, humans of all things, he scoffed and result, his footsteps stopping just right in front of the scared player. Am I going to die here? The player was undoubtedly terrified out of their mind. This person clearly didn't sound normal, nor were their intentions anything but the average kidnapper would conduct, and such as I would prefer to be done with you entirely. That plan set in motion. Suddenly he grabbed their chin and roughly, almost hesitantly, the player couldn't decipher out of his facial expression, but though his tensed hold on their chin, he seems displeased to be touching a person, or at least a human. Is this your first time? Is it your time? Not yet. They let go of their chin, but awfully almost in a erratic manner. Their head was pushed to the side, cause of the force, and their chin felt like it was bruised. If they could touch their chin, they would, but their restraints was enabling them to do just about anything with their limbs, let alone speak. The player wished they could start cussing at the mysterious man, but they couldn't, at least not now. Soon, when the roles are reversed, it would be their turn to recruit the man. As the player could see his retreating figure, they were able to make out the figure of the man in his attire. He wore a clown-themed outfit, with purple being the main color of his uniform. For a split second they remembered he was no other than Jester, the clown who was performing the story back in the purple tent. Then he came up to them and somehow dragged them without them knowing. How was this even possible? Unless he isn't human to begin with. You understand soon, he said. One last time before leaving the player yet again in the dark, alone. The restraints on their wrist were starting to ache, and the discomfort of their current position wasn't helping. But what can they do? Absolutely nothing. So for now, they were forced to wait. The sun fell down in the horizon, the yellow, red hue invading the skies, creating a beautiful scheme of colors. You were distracted by the beautiful view of the cafe through the window. The cafe was beginning to clear up as soon as the evening hit, maybe because less people visit the cafe at night. But there were some people here who simply came in to do their work, remembered when that used to be you, having organized everything in a short amount of time, and places like cafes had helped you in getting things done without getting distracted. The thought, though depressing, having to work your butt off every single day before your life changed forever, was nostalgic. Maybe you were experiencing homesickness. Both Pyrot and Harley Quinn had to leave after being in the building for an ungodly amount of hours today, but their company brought you peace. You didn't feel so lonely. Hopefully they were able to visit tomorrow again. Everything going well? A voice startled you. You turned around to see your boss, who had a smile on his face. Yeah, it's well. No problems, he said while nodding. He looked around the place and saw only a few people inside. He stood there while avoiding and exchanging words. Was he starting to share some bad news, or considering of the recent missing cases, I'm going to let you be dismissed early. It is your first day, so I'll go easy on you. You never realized how fast your eyes were able to brighten up. Home early? Your question was answered by a mere smile on the man's face. Thank you so much, boss. He shook his hand with utmost enthusiasm. The older man wasn't surprised by your jolly attitude. That was how your young ones were, just like. The happiness always made his day a lot better. No problem. Make sure to get home safe, okay? He released your grip from his much bigger hand and nodded without a second thought in the world, gathering your stuff, which was all put inside your bag. You failed to notice a tall figure watching from the window just outside the cafe. You said your goodbyes to your boss closing the cafe door as you led yourself outside, but by then the sun had already set, waving you in the dark with dimmed street lamps. Some lamps were flickering, some were out of commission. If it wasn't early enough, the lack of proper lighting made it even more spine-chilling. Despite your brain telling you that something's in the dark or someone following you behind, you shook your head, comforting yourself that it was your paranoia speaking, and not truly your irrational mind. As you walked the empty streets of the town, the paranoia sinks deeper inside you, inside your head, and thoughts. You were always a paranoid person. It was practically in your nature. But now you felt convinced that you weren't just crazy or delusional. You stopped walking briefly, holding your bag strapped tightly around your fist. Hesitation entered your blood flow like a parasite that was denied entry but forced itself in. You slowly turned your head towards your back, then to the corners where small alleys were in your vicinity. Nothing. Upon checking your surroundings, you let out a sigh of relief, then a low chuckle escaped your lips. If anyone was near to hear your creepy laugh in a dark street like this, they would think you were mentally ill, which wasn't far from wrong. Your thoughts were snapped out of place, and when a hand was placed on your shoulder, a touch was warm, soft, gentle, like whoever was placing their palm down was scared of hurting you. Hesitation came again, like old friend who isn't welcome. But you stuck the confidence in before turning your head to the supposed mysterious person who had grabbed your attention. You were expecting to see Pirate out of all people, let alone seek your villainy. Your connection with the Red Clown was strained, rarely exchanged words or eye contact. Why did Pirate just come up to me? Thoughts flooded your mind, questions after questions that appeared inside the little brain of yours, becoming more unrealistic than other. But truly, what did the infamous silent clown need from you? Would it be a way to the player? Were you able to think of other ideas? Pirate leaned in against your ear without a word. You felt your breathing pause from a hot breath that touched the skin of your ear. Heart pounding in your chest and ears that you were able to hear it like it was right beside you as it continued beating and keeping you alive. I need your help. His voice was soft but careful. Before his words spilled out more, his eyes landed around numerous spots and objects that laid near your area. Please, Pirate, voice came again. This time, not only was it soft, like a tub of clouds, you sounded desperate, scared. It worried you to the core. What happened? You asked, trying to sound calm while freaking out in the inside. It was to the point that you almost believed that your heart might pound out of your chest, like those grandfather clocks with animal figures inside. Pat's voice cracked up as you felt sympathetic for the silent clown, desperate, despite looking like someone who could tear someone to pieces, like he hadn't done that before. He looks like a complete sweetheart, and with the right person, he was just exactly that. Come on, Pirate, talk to me. You tried to assure him, grabbing onto his gloved hand. His eyes widened briefly before he let out a quiet sigh. His face was still just inches from your ear, and it would have been a lie if you said his closeness didn't feel right. It was a short minute of Pirate to It took a short minute for Pirate to finally start speaking, and the circus gesture took them don't know where. You could sense a guilt in his deep voice, to where To what was most born to the implication of Pirot's words. Was he saying the player was kidnapped by Jester? But why? How come you didn't contact the dots sooner? Why are you telling me this? A part of you was grateful that Pirate trusted you with this piece of information. But why you? You and Pirate barely communicated. Was the player shared good words of your presence that made Pirate trust you? Or it was something deeper that you weren't able to comprehend as of now? Because you're different compared to the rest of the humans, and they trust you. And at this time, I was unable to do it myself. You were expecting Pirate to be needing help, considering he carried himself so well on his own. Well, maybe the exception being when he's around the player. He had a lot to think about, that's for sure. At first, you described yourself to be a bystander. Now you're part of a bigger scheme of things. And though you were looking forward to it when you first arrived, being in the porn storyline was more stressful than anyone may anticipate. Especially since you didn't recognize the current route that was going on for. Please go to the circus tonight. I don't care how you manage to get them out, but please bring them back. How could you say no to face like that? You weren't sure that Pirate would ever show you this side of him. We saw his affection was claimed first by the player, but this was good enough. You wish you were a bit more selfless sometimes, and not driven by guilt, or other emotions that were proven to be weakness when making logical decisions like this. Whenever to stick your head out for someone or leave them to their demise. Since you were going to find the player, you couldn't just let him die such a sad and possible painful death. Okay, I'll do it. Your confirmation sent him to a jolt of happiness, though you could tell by the fact that he moved away from your ear, looking at you with that giant smile. Then we touched his eyes. Parrot said no more and gave you a bear hug. Seriously? Is this even Pirate anymore? Parrot backed off, his arms now resting on his side once more. The smile that once naturally sat on his face was now back to the plain look that screamed nonchalant. His back straightened. He shook his head. The bells on his clown hat made jiggles upon the motion of his head. Before you could properly thank and say goodbye to him, he slowly walked away from your vision into the shadows, where darkness swallowed him whole. What was the hell about weird? He pushed down the unnecessary thoughts that surfaced inside your mind. What mattered most at the moment was the player, though a part of you made you feel less worried because they were the main character. They weren't named the player for nothing. After all, what kind of story do we live in? You just hoped that the player is able to stay strong until you or someone else arrived at the place to come to their safety. At that moment, you choose a current designated plan and begin walking to the circus, starting Operation Save the Player. Okay, but on a serious side note, maybe we're indeed scared. Surely, they are the main character of the story you're living in right now, but it doesn't mean they're immune to pains and injuries. Sure, the player can't succumb to their injuries, right? They're a player. They can't just... Jester. Ticket Taker's voice rang out inside the Jester's purple tent. His voice was not unheard by the clown. What, Bill? Ticket Taker could sense the irritation in the other's voice, but he was unable to decipher the reason for the irritation. A thought came to mind, yet he was hesitant to bring up and outright say it. but knew that the dear leader was in a foul mood, and the follow gesture was always happy enough to confide in him. So what difference could have occurred? Is this about that interesting guest? Of course he met you. Who else would it be? The indication of you in the conversation made Jester grit his teeth. It may seem that Harlequin is succumbing to their charms. Jester paused, trying to keep his cool. Ticket Taker knew of Jester's short temper nature when Ari pushed too far over the edge. He didn't push it, waiting for Jester to finish his sentence instead. I don't understand the interest and fawn towards humans of all things. What do you think, Bill? Jester knew he needed to keep his cool. He was known to be strategic and knows how to get things done when they needed to be. Now, how can a mere human push his buttons without needing to be in person to do it? The ticket taker gave it some thought. He had little to no interaction with the human, but that one time when he sneaked inside the room and found their drawings and such, it did give him an idea. Maybe they know more than they let on. They know what pushes our buttons and what can grab our attention. Ticket Taker's theory wasn't bad. Jester even had the same thoughts before. That's so, Jester hummed, deep in thought. What do you want me to do, Jester? Get to know the human. Talk to them, perhaps. Any method will be satisfactory as long as you get them to trust you. Jester's idea was taken into account to Ticket Taker. If they got the human to trust him and some others, their expecting information might come off as easily as baiting a fish out of water, as you wish. As other parts of the circus, more specifically the doctor's tent, the doctor was taking samples of dead bodies that he had gone by the help of Harley Quinn. The green clown was sitting on the chair they found somewhere and watching the doctor do his thing. Harley Quinn wasn't a biologist or scientist type, but seeing the doctor do his specialty was intriguing. Something on your mind, Harley Quinn? It's unusual for you to be silent. The doctor's heavy accent filled the spacious room. So sounds of metallic equipment filled the silence too. Hurricane was taken back to see that he was called out, nevertheless, by the doctor, who had his back turned away and clear focus on his toy, but none of them were normal, so it didn't come out as a surprise. You won't understand, Doctor. Harley Quinn didn't mean to come off as defensive, which resulted in a small laugh from the doctor. That tone in your voice doesn't suit you, the doctor pointed out, and then the silence between them dragged on. Harley Quinn let out an annoyed sigh, throwing his head back to express it. What are you getting at? He retorted, drumming his hand on his thighs. No offense to be taken, but that way you are acting is similar to the pirate when he's infatuated with that other human. At the mention of pirate, Harley Quinn loud groan. Don't remind me of that lovestick fool. I am nothing like him. Yes, you two are not the same, but the way you... That's enough. Harley Quinn definitely didn't want to hear it. Sure, he did some things for the human, you, but he didn't mean anything by it, or at least he thinks he doesn't remember a day where he felt such strong, undefined feelings. Just don't let Chester find out. I mean, he's most likely is aware, but I'm just warning you to watch your back. He's a kind Harley Quinn is aware Chester's deep hatred for humans. If he was made aware of Harley Quinn in this contract with you, and is in contact with you, Nobody wished to fathom how errant he would be, and how far he would go to set a warning. I know, we know how he is, Quinn scoffed, trying to then the silence dragged on, but was an uncomfortable one, while a silence of mutual understanding. If you want me to keep my mouth shut, maybe you should introduce me to this human. As the doctor suggested, Quinn raised a suspicious eyebrow. Yeah, no. Jester? Okay, fine, just shut up, will you? Blackmail was not a fun tactic if it was being used on you. Quinn learned that the hard way. But that aside, he hoped that the doctor wouldn't have some crazy experiment in mind for you. Or maybe try to dissect your brain to see what information you held. Quinn has killed people. He ate them in cold blood, but the thought of you on the operating table, defenseless and completely out of it, is a sight of it in it's in a slight chance of dying. It didn't sit right with him. Oh well. He knew the doctor wouldn't do anything serious as long as he kept watch of his actions while you were near the doctor. The player, they are somewhere inside the circus that was bustling with people who are looking towards the night's gruesome show. You held the golden ticket in your hands. Then you look up at the circus that held secrets far beyond the comprehension of the average citizen that roams around. A side of you was sure and evident. The player was okay, just tied up somewhere inside and excluded from the outside world. You just hoped that the jester, or anyone for the matter, except Pirate, unless this was a chap settled by the circus members, would be able to track you down, and then you would get trapped alongside the player as you went to a deep thought of what you're about to do, sinking inside a circus that kidnaps people, and then the main circus members eat them like it's a gourmet buffet. Then they continue that for God knows how long. Before you entered to possibly meet your demise, you needed to make a hopeful wish or player of some sort to provide you good luck. This doesn't work, of course. It's just felt comforting, you know. Please don't kill me. I don't have plot armor. And that was chapter 7 of Beyond a Game. If you like my content, please consider subscribing, liking the video, and commenting down below. I'll put the link in the description and in the pinned comments. I'll see you guys next time.